This is our land. You wanna stay? You stay here forever. We gonna bury you here.
Greetings and salutations, everyone. So, you might have guessed by the intro and title of this probably short video, you don't really know with me, we're going to be discussing the Amani Tribe, more specifically the grandson of Zul'jan, the original leader of the Amani Tribe. Now, the Amani is led by Zul'jan's granddaughter, Xe'ra, but of course, we're going to be talking about her brother, Zul'jan. From what I've seen so far in Midnight, Zul'jan is one of my absolute favorite new characters. The dude just looks so badass. I mean, look at him. And not to mention his backstory and character is something to write home about. Though, historically, there have been characters that I've rooted for and have been my favorites that have ended up, well, gods, I miss them. Anyways, onto a fun fact instead of a sad fact. One of my party tricks is predicting the future. It is, after all, one of my few perks of being a demigod of time. But in this case, I predicted that the new leaders of the Amani Tribe were going to be Zul'jan's grandkids, a boy and a girl each. I originally thought they might be twins, and that's not exactly been deframed. Actually, I think Zul'jan is the younger brother, so I guess it has been deframed. But it's a high I'm still writing on to this very day. Okay, now for the point of this video. I don't really get too deep into spoiler territory, surprisingly, especially during PTR and the Alpha Beta. I haven't fully experienced the Midnight story myself. That way I can experience it all organically when it all goes live. Further discussions regarding the story will happen once the expansion goes live too. But I've seen plenty of snippets and threads, and I've kind of lived vicariously through plenty of the experiences other players have had when they've sunk their teeth in the gameplay. I'd say I know enough to have at least an understanding or a good notion of what I'm talking about today, but it's less about spoilers, well, mostly. It's mainly looking at the signs and having a very cautionary and worrisome take. But enough of beating around the bush, let's get into the meat of it all with Zul'jan. Zul'jan is one of the most important characters in Zul'amon's Zone story. As the secondary leader of the Amani, he's got quite the heat and hatred for the elves, who did in fact steal their homeland when they first settled in Quel'thelas. They killed his grandfather, and quite possibly did the same to Zul'jan and Zul'jara's parents. His hatred for outsiders, elves, and us, the champion, is exceptionally valid. It's a genuine disdain that stemmed from hundreds of years of warfare. Simply put, he's definitely got the characteristics of a villain, a relative that was taken down by outsiders, and a hatred for them that butchered his tribe and his family. He could definitely be written as one, but many of us don't want to see him cemented as another one-off villain that we end up killing at the end of a zone, or the questing zone, whatever. The campaign. What we want to see instead is a complicated figure who can be more than just a two-dimensional boss that we string up like a piñata and take turns whacking for the chance of your best-in-slot trinket to drop. None of that. An anti-hero or an antagonist to turn good that rises above and takes a separate path is what I want to see. And despite that logistic hatred and being relatively new, Zul'jan is quickly becoming a beloved character by a good chunk of the fanbase, at least the fanbase that I interact with. Specifically people who generally like the trolls, the Amani, or quite simply the Horde or Horde-coded characters. They like that he's got that venom to him, for those who've spurned him and his people. I can gush on and on about characters who specifically have that raw bad boy or bad girl energy, and are ultimately sidelined or killed off inconsequentially. But for now, or consider the following, there have been few characters who've got a bit of a bite to them upon our meetings with them. These figures we cross paths with throughout our adventures have shown us that they are distrustful towards us, but maintain an uneasy rapport altogether. I personally can only think of two characters that show that characteristic, Zu and Thanos. Blightcaller. Oh boy, that guy. Starting with the bad boy himself, Thanos, whose hate stems from being undead. That's all. No, actually, even before he was raised to an undeath, he was still a snide and brash stinker. No rhyme or reason. It honestly feels forced, but hey. And Zu, whose reaction to our destructive path to his emotionally driven land is very valid. Probably the most understandable. We destroy his homeland with our war, more than any other native race on his continent. His reception towards us is very unwelcoming, almost barring us from going further inland, especially to sacred places. But despite his grievances, he still accepts our help and understands that you can't paint an entire faction or race over the acts of their worst, like Garrosh. We see his arc handled very well through Mr. Pandaria, acting as a mediator between both the Horde and the Alliance leaders, showing both that the cycle of aggression can end if both parties just simply walk away. In regards to Zul'jan, however, I'd say he's much more like Zu. Not that he's fluffy or anything, but the fact that he holds much more ire towards any outsiders and wouldn't trust them as far as he could throw them. And I can understand why he's so distrustful towards them. His reason for that hate stems from a dark history that always had his people slaughtered, and ultimately be on the losing end. Well, that's how I would put it delicately. He's got legit reasons to hate us and our allies. He mirrors a lot of Zul'jan, his grandfather. He even dresses like him and clearly idolizes him, and why wouldn't he? He's lost so much, his people, his eye, his arm, all because of the elves that invaded Zul'man. Zul'jan, he even reached out for aid from the Horde and was only met with a deafening silence. He was left for dead and had to finish his own battles when the Horde turned from him during the Second War to go chase after Gul'dan. And as a spit in the face towards Zul'jan, the Horde invited those very people that they promised to help him remove from their lands into their own faction. He and the Amani Tribe had every reason to hate both factions now. Of course he was scorned, who wouldn't be? I'd be too if somehow Leorox asked for help on behalf of the Mok'Nathal clan after having his clan be all but wiped out by the Draenei, only be pointed and laughed at and then invite the Draenei into their fold. Now, obviously that never happened, but wouldn't you be pissed if it did? I know I would. Honestly, I feel as if the conflict could have been handled better, but in the end, Zul'jan was forced to be put down, and history would mark him as the villain. I would say that Zul'jan's history is not this simply painted black character. He was put through the ringer, lost so much, and was left with very few allies or options. What he did to his own gods was very dark, and obviously very bad, but it was out of desperation and out of anger. You can see why he did what he did. Not many agree with Zul'jan, based on his own merits alone, and not a lot of people understand why he did what he had to do. But at the end of the day, I like him. He's honestly one of the coolest characters in Warcraft's canon, but I didn't want him to kill more folks from the Alliance or the Horde either. As far as how Blizzard writes their story and characters, especially villains, it's become a constant talking point that they haven't necessarily handled it too well. I mean, there are a handful of exceptions with a Rotocron in mind. Hey, how you doing? But when it comes to showing our villains mercy, it's a rare thing to do. And most of the villains we do deal with anyway end up being a quest objective or another loot pinata, as we said earlier. However, the only time I'm asking Blizzard for some leniency is towards Zul'jan. I can probably count on one hand how many times we've spared our foes and made them change course, especially those beyond saving, those who are corrupted or on the verge of it, and those who are spared are not always left around long enough either. Sylvanas Windrunner, to my memory, is one of the few characters we didn't end who was our enemy once, and is now atoning for her crimes in the bleakest of places. Another example is Grommash Hellscream, alternate Draenor, of course, and probably from the main universe too, if seeing through the blood haze after the fact counts. Grom was deceived, tricked, imprisoned, and joined us in our cause against the Legion as a result. And for his heroism, his darker acts were mostly forgiven from Draenor's denizens.
Draenor is free!
Yeah, basically that. But that's like 2 characters. Not a lot of examples provided, and also Grom is probably dead, or alternate Grom. I mean, we know that main universe Grom is dead, he's been dead for years now. But still, I don't necessarily mean these characters had a chance to escape that fate either. I mean, we spare them and give them another chance to prove that they have some morality and decency left within them. And considering the 2 examples I provided before, that's pretty rare if you ask me. And in the same vein, I look to Zul'jan with such an outlook but on somebody who's still young and can still learn, who clearly wants to do what is best for his people by any means, but has a heart for his sister, for his family, for his people. It's the same emotions we did not see in Zul'jan. It's clear there are signs of a character who's torn between defending his people and avenging them by any means. But now we have that fear bubbling near the surface, and we are afraid to see that Zul'jan, much like his grandfather, will repeat history and stoke that same aggression and malice towards outsiders, especially the elves and to the Horde. It could result in more bloodshed than we initially saw in Burning Crusade. This is that fear we've had as we're weeks away from Midnight's release, and we may be delving into such territory with Zul'jan, and anyone that follows his, or rather, his grandfather's ideologies. And I implore Blizzard, do not repeat history, do not make the most obvious story blunders for Midnight and have us kill Zul'jan. If anything, bait us into believing he's a villain, but at the very least, spare him near the end, and have him change his course as a result. That makes for such a far more interesting and refreshing story. How exciting and warm-hearted would it be to see Zul'jara and Zul'jan lead the Amani together through their own respective trials and their own ways, with both children experiencing the plight of the Amani Tribe and their Loas through numerous experiences, and to see their story end on a positive note. Preaching that the Amani have long deserved justice for years, that they have spent secluded and near death. We have seen trolls from various other tribes lose their leaders, be through assassination, murdered in their own kingdom, or in the case of Vol'jin, I think Zul'jan deserves to be more than just another troll killed and forgotten like the troll leaders before, and should be given way more than a second chance. Let him be a rare case and escape that fate that so many other troll leaders haven't been able to. Let Zul'jan be a former baddie who learns, grows, and does better. That is so much more compelling of a character arc than just another troll leader turned bad and killed for having ample reason to be peeved off at outsiders and others. Why not let outsiders prove him wrong by sparing him and giving him what he's not expecting? True allies, true negotiations, and true unity. Okay, I know people are 100% sick and tired of that on some level, given the questionable narrative direction given expansions prior. But here, it's deserved, and it's far better than the alternative outcome of just making him the boss that drops your best in slot trinket. Inconsequential and made into a meme by a race to world first raiders. That's a fate worse than death, my friends. Ugh. If this is the direction that Blizzard is heading down, then they should reconsider and give Zul'jan a better fate. He has fans, he has people who like him and appreciate him, and want something far less predictable for him. Elsewise, this will sour many people on Midnight and on the Amani story, which I doubt Blizzard wants more of at this current time. But Let me know your thoughts, everyone. Do you think Zul'jan is doomed, or can be saved and be turned into something far better than just another villain for us to end? Let me know down below. Also, if you badmouth Zul'jara in any manner or shape or form, anywhere down there, get the f out of here with that shit, or I will punch you. Anyways, thank you all for watching. I've been Chronos, your lovely time to be god and host. Be sure to like, share, subscribe for more videos like this one in the near future. Be sure to join the Discord for more discussions with myself and the community, and as a special thanks to the patrons and YouTube community members to help keep this channel alive and well. But until next time, my friends, see ya!